very great pleasure and our pleasures to welcome you here for this exciting two-day workshop.
Because we have all this knowledge in this small room, and we will never get so much people together who can do this jointly.
So I'll be your friendly guide through the inventory for the next 2 days, basically introducing each of them on their own. Like, we've never quite done this kind of format, just talking about each chapter. I've tried to make it as concise as possible, but we're still trying to really examine the inventory. I mean, you all know it's like 900 pages, there's so much data in there, and we'll probably take the next few years to really like get to the bottom of all of it. So just take it as like a small introduction.
In the 18th century, the same scene was widely reproduced on the block prints, which the Onasanomiya represented as unusual, like this. The Chinese cat symbolized the sad fate of Onasanomiya. On this scene, Onasanomiya is totally secularized because she is represented in Yujo's costume. The secularized Onasanomiya can be also seen as foreign woman. I think it is very interesting that such kind of immoral term was chosen for the design of export porcelain for the Western aristocracy.
When I saw it, it was really amazing because Mrs. Palmer showed the flower decorated piece here, right? So I thought these flower work are already in Arita around 1700. But if I saw this piece in Japan, I probably see this Mikawa somewhere outside of Arita or late period. But it is not that, but it is probably Arita piece and like this flower work.
This I find very interesting. These are two of very, very similar shape, really quite similar with the, I don't know whether they're made in the same mold or not, but they're really quite similar in size also, but in a different style. This is more the Kakemon palette as we know it, more classical, and this is, I think, maybe earlier, or maybe it's not, because this Karaksa, this scroll here looks earlier, more something we associate with around 1660, 1670, and that's later. So what are we looking at? Is this, maybe I'm wrong, maybe they later on made this as well, or is this an earlier and they could still use the same shape to later on, 30 years later, to make a new pot?
これが長吉谷で出土した香炉ですね。
It was excavated at the 長吉谷 Kirunditsa Center.
でもちろん長吉谷で瑠璃なんかも作ってますけど、同じ形のがなかったのでこれを持ってきてます。
So of course the 長吉谷 also made blue glaze porcelain, but he didn't find similar shape. That's why he brought this shard without blue.
で有田の場合この17世紀後半だけこういうふうに全部こうグレーズをかけてこう伏せ焼きにしたものというのが作られています。
So in Arita this period only the base was totally covered with glaze and also inversion firing.
でこれが長吉谷の可能性が高いと判断したのはですね、この高台のところをよく見るとこのひび割れみたいな感じで筋が入ってます。でこれもこちらとこちらにもそれがこうありまして、でその辺が共通なんです。決してその有田とか鍋島でもやるんですけど、この伏せ焼きはこういうひび状態になるっていうのは他の窯ではない。そういう点で長吉谷の可能性が高いというふうに見ています。
This is the world's biggest collection of this kind of vessel, where the porcelain pieces are additionally covered with lacquer decoration. The museum has over 60 pieces of this kind. and 9 of them are called according to their bizarre shape, birdcage vases. This is one of the objects.
I have not changed my mind. I still think that black objects, whether they're mirror black or family noir, were really because of the passion for lacquer that Europeans had. This, of course, is over into a little bit of furniture study here. There are pieces that were actually reused, pieces of lacquer that were in one object that were cut out and reused in pieces of a later period because people were so excited about having lacquer. Remember, Europeans could not make lacquer at that point. Later on, they learned to imitate it, but this is important to know.
That's what probably it is, and that's why I think that this bottle probably was made not necessarily for somebody in the Central Asia, but what about Tibet? Tibet was there for some time in that area. So who knows? Certainly it is an absolutely extraordinary and beautiful piece.
And I also think that the shape is interesting. It is just, if you look at this part of the object, it is just a pot, a little pot, and many of them were produced and used exactly at that time. And also what was interesting to me is, I think, that when I think of a salt in this period, I think of the very famous salt in the Victoria and Albert Museum and George Welsh one. It's a tall one because it's a prestigious object, and this is only a tiny object. So that was new for me to have this little salt. But we have this in silver, exactly from that period, from England. That's also, the shape is different, of course, but it is a low, small object. So it was made and used at the time.
And what sort of struck me most about the group was the range of quality, from things that were incredibly high quality, finely painted, finely made with fine materials, and would have been very expensive when new, to things that, to my eyes, if I just saw them, I might not even think they were 17th century, and I certainly would not have thought that they would have ended up in a royal collection.
I mean, the best ones and many of the ordinary ones are identical to pieces in Istanbul. The bad ones I haven't seen anywhere else. And I really wonder where they came, how they came here.
Mr. Ohashi-san, there is a possibility that this could be Japanese? Chinese, eh? Well,
no Japanese. No Japanese.
I thought about it.
Those, considering the style of the lid and hand throwing marks, we can be sure that this lid is not easy wear. So the original lid might be damaged or lost and replaced with European production. It requires further research to determine if the lid was manufactured in Delft, Meissen, or somewhere else.
I have at this stage just to say to you that I'm very puzzled by the Famille Rose in this collection. It's not at all what I expected, because when I think of the magnificent blue and white and the huge quantities of Famille Rose, I think I only catalogued, was it 180 pieces? Yes. Of Famille Rose. You know, that's a very small amount. And if you think that Famille Rose was absolutely contemporary with Augustus, it was coming into Europe. And when you think of the wonderful Famille Rose pieces that are in other collections, you know, the big pink vases, no. Beautiful great chargers like this, but many of them, no, not in Augustus's collection.
This, I believe, it should be the incense holder.
But it whistles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it makes us.
Did you try?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I did. It's a sharp sound.
If this is...
I was trained as a potter originally, so when I look at these things, I really zoom in on the construction, and I can well imagine cutting out the edges of the boat and the coin symbol, and applying each little figure and so.
As for the unique shape, the spot And the handle here looks like the lotus stalk. And they can be compared with the rhinos and porcelain examples. Also, since the Song dynasty, the literature had tended to take fresh lotus leaves, bended the lotus stalks, and use the leaves as drink alcohols. It is possible that the spot and the handle of the sentai teapot are transformed from this type of lotus-shaped drinking utensil.